Hey guys, we'll see if I'm good in red, man. That's just kind of jumping off my little phone screen there, so I may need to avoid as much of this kind of red. Uh, this is my first shave of the new year, and as I was choosing what soap to use, I have a bunch that I've got in as used soaps, and so a lot to choose from that I haven't tried yet. Looking forward to that. And first one of the new year, and this one seemed very fitting. Seaforth Sea Spice Lime. I think at some point, maybe in Reddit, it was voted as just one of the best scents of maybe 2022 or, something like that. I did see that the occasional guy one guy used it and then he just was done with it, and that happens with so many good soaps. If you use it a lot, you can just kind of get tired of it. And but I haven't used it at all. I don't think. If I have, it's just been a sample or a smush that somebody sent me, but I don't think I've used it yet. I do know that the base that Spearhead has put together for the Seaforth here is tremendous. So I know that's not going to be a letdown at all. And it is a very lime, forward scent. And it does seem to have just a hint of spice around there. This one hadn't been used in a while. You can see the little gap around as it's had some shrinkage. So that type of gap sometimes happens maybe with a year of non-use or, almost that much time that I can tell at least. But we're going to give it a shot and see if we can pick out any other items in the scent other than just the lime and the citrus type. And as an aftershave, I grabbed some of this Lucky Tiger, which is a citrus based in the citrus family with its orange type notes in it. And I like it a lot because it's just got that great vintage look, right? It's a time proven product. And I like it, and a lot of other guys do too. As a aftershave product, as a aloe kind of toner. And the other gear, something else we're going to be trying for the first time, is this. This is a funky looking handle, not something I would usually choose. Almost looks like something that that would come out of a less expensive shop where they're just where I've like with the Shave Forge type handles that also come from maybe AliExpress and stuff. That they just kind of throw in chunks in and swirling everything together. But this is actually a specific design, and this is from Summer Break. And of course, as we look at now that we know that's the theme, it definitely matches the theme. It's bright and cheery and all that. We'll check out I think the handle design, the handle shape here is going to be good. This is a B11. I've never tried the B11 batch from Declaration Grooming. You can see it's quite different than the B9A I've been using the last couple days. Look at the thickness of the tip coloring. This one, the thickness, it's about a layer that's maybe in many cases over a centimeter of this white color on the tips, but you're not getting anything like that with the B11. B11 was not a batch that I sought out. It just came with some other brushes that I definitely wanted. And I figured, hey, I'll try the B11. If I don't like it, I can sell it. That's one wonderful thing about our shaving market right now. So the B11 promises to be, if it's typical of the B11, more firm than my liking might be. But if it is mounted higher, that could be very different. Now this is the B9A. And we've already discussed how the B9A is more gel tipped. It doesn't actually turn super jelly, it just turns soft, nice and soft. I really like the B9A. And then as he went on to the B10, things got more firm. And so then I knew that I probably wouldn't want the B10. If I was going for something, should try for the B9A. Then he went to B11. And as I read about people comparing the batches, I learned that it wouldn't be a good idea for me to buy the B11 or the B10 because they claim to be firmer than the other ones that I wasn't quite sure about. The B5 was the same way. I bought a B5 and discovered if I mounted it at the right height, which was higher than Scott's standard, then I really enjoyed it and its soft tips. And then as reports of the B6, B7, B8 came out, they got firmer and firmer, I believe is the way it goes. And so then I knew that I didn't want my B5 to get any firmer. And so then I knew I probably wouldn't be a good person to have a good fit for the B6, 7, or 8. And so that's probably where the B11 is as well. But let's give it a shot. Now that I've got it, I'll be able to try it out. We have had it soaking for maybe 15 minutes by the time I will be shaving with it. We are going to be using my Nacet, and so we're bringing out what I have been using to shave with it for quite a while. The 398 is the use for today, the use count. Timeless 68 open comb is the razor, just like the last time we shaved. Here are the identifying marks. I pre-wet my face before starting to record. I'll do that again. A couple of days growth on today, and so it's not going to be as friendly of a shave with this old blade. But I'm determined not to switch over if I don't have to another blade, because I'm anxious to get to $4.99 so that I could then start planning when the 500 shave is going to be, to give you guys some warning. I'm going to try to make that a live shave for sure. So let us load up. We'll do 30 seconds and see how that does. Shake out. And you know, who knows, if this handle design turns out to be enjoyably ergonomic, I could see myself putting up with a handle design a color pattern that I don't like, if the brush and the ergonomics just work, you know. All right, 30 seconds. We'll start when it's the 45 mark, and it'll be easy to count. Backbone is what these dense knots from Declaration Grooming are known for, and the ones that have more relaxed backbone, those are the ones I've gravitated towards. The B5, the B9, the B13, the B4. Oh, one more second. All right. I don't think I've loaded for too long. As you can see, we don't have a lot of, you know what, just to be on the safe side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do 5 more seconds. I'm going to rinse off, and indeed I'm going to go ahead and take a second and use a brush to clean off these the ridges and stuff here. So the Sea Spice Lime and scents like it definitely going to lend themselves more toward the morning shavers with that kind of uplifting, bright citrus kind of scent. The lime is obvious from the beginning, and it seems like other notes, because after all it's called Sea Spice, and before you get to the lime, and so surely there's got to be some spiciness in there, something kind of oceanic, maybe even something that kind of resembles Old Spice, because that's nautical in its theme. So there we go. That's what we get after we mix using only what the water that was in the brush. And we'll start adding. Fortunately, I am feeling some nice splay from this brush. It's not feeling so dense and unyielding. Some of the bristles are moving away to the side, which is nice, especially as the lather gets in there and takes up space to space the bristles out. And who knows, you know, a declaration knot is not a cheap knot, almost always. And so therefore I haven't experimented with batches, with batch numbers that weren't ones that I knew I'd like. I haven't taken any chances because it is an expensive gamble. And so here I get to try one that I definitely wouldn't have ordered otherwise. But sometimes you get great surprises that way, right? So who knows? That's why I really love buying large purchases or large number of items. But number one, you get a great deal. And number two, you get to try things that they're looking great, that you wouldn't ordinarily try. I do have softer water here than my other place, but I haven't really noticed that affecting my shaves. I've noticed it affecting my showers. With the body soap and things like that, it just feels like it takes forever to rinse that soap off. Well, this brush has a big splay, a big fan-like splay. Now with that thin kind of runniness look to it, I am going to probably stop adding water. Let me press down and make sure I'm getting a good mix here, an even mix of soap and water, and we'll go for it. Some of the spicier notes are coming out. I can see where there's interest there. And the lime has backed off a little bit, which is nice. There are so many lime soaps out there because it's a popular scent. It's very enjoyable, but everybody does it. I like that. That is really good. It wasn't that way at first. It wasn't as subtle. It wasn't as nuanced in the spice department at first. The lime was really heavy in the beginning, but that has backed off, and I can see why people would gravitate toward something like this. All right, a little bit of water on my face. One last time. And then let's see what this B11 feels like. What's funny with these batches, when you ask somebody what something feels like, if you also have to ask, if you want a good answer, you have to ask what they have as a basis of comparison. Have they experienced any of the knots that you know about? Or do they have is there a common ground somewhere? Somewhere else, another type of knot that might be similar. Otherwise, if they just say soft tips, that's just crazy subjective. And I've had so many people say something like that and have the tips be disagreeable to me. This is not too wet, even though it is kind of flinging off a little bit. I think I might have hit it just right, which is pretty easy to do with this Spearhead soap base. The tips are more firm than the B9A, but they're definitely still in the soft area. Definitely not. Oh, that's a good looking lather there. Not scratchy at all. No even no scritch. Not really even a feeling a natural tip to it. It does feel soft. And because it's a declaration knot, we know there are just tons of these tips at work here. It's a dense not. Matter of fact, look at that. I think we could add more water if we needed to. But I'm not going to, because the second pass always gets a little wetter. We have worked this, I think, enough into my skin. It's looking pretty good. (498th use of the Nacet. Timeless open comb is the razor. 68 gap stainless steel. Scalloped top cap. Knurled handle. The knurling is a little more aggressive than I might like when you're not shaving and when you're handling it dry. But it's perfect when you are shaving and you've got wet hands. You are not gonna, it's not gonna slip. It's also good in a survival situation when you might need to file down something. you could. Matter of fact, that might be a nice way to take this handle down a notch in the aggression department. You'll see me doing short strokes because I'm gauging the kind of the tugginess and all that here. It is tugging a little bit since we may be on two days of growth. We might actually be on 3. And that is as bad as it's going to get, because the second pass is always nice. Let me do a rinse. Get some more, kind of pump the lather around in the, not pressing down a lot in the bowl here, but just a little bit to kind of circulate the lather. Fortunately, this one seems to be lofted high enough to where it's not pushing my skin around with the firmness here, with the density of the brush. I have a feeling if it were mounted just a little bit less, I would not enjoy the brush at all, because it would kind of push my skin around kind of like that. I don't need to work this lather very much right now. As you can see, lather got all over the handle and made it a little slippery. Just rinse that off my hand. This Spearhead lather here, this Seaforth soap, is a great lather that works well if you want to run yours a little drier. But then if you do like I do, give it more water, it still holds up nicely. We've got a good many artisans who have a quality soap base like this. With this older blade, I don't have the same hair reduction pattern that a lot of you guys do. In most cases, that first pass with a young blade is going to take off 90% of the hair, that first pass, and then the second one is often one that just does the cleanup and you could actually exit after the second pass. However, with this blade, it does leave more work for the second and third passes to do. Sometimes the third pass is good enough to walk away from, but not usually. I usually find a fourth or even fifth pass is necessary to give me the closeness that I do think is reasonable to expect. Yeah, and right now I do have that spiciness around me, and it does seem to be kind of aquatic. It's got some notes in there that definitely lend toward that description. And sure enough, as you can see, this now we're on the third pass. The lather isn't as thick because it's been gathering water as I've left water on my face. Now it's kind of perfect. I don't usually chase the Baby Butt Smooth finish. One of the reasons is because it's one of those 80-20 scenarios where a lot of times you're spending 80% of your shave trying to polish off that last 20% of growth. I mean, those are not quite the right numbers, but you know the idea. And so I don't bother with that. Another reason is that in many cases, that Baby Butt Smooth usually stays in its current status for an hour or two, and then you look like, you just got a DFS shave for hours after that. And so to spend that much time working on something that is so fleeting, I choose not to do that. However, for you guys who can do that in 3 passes, why not? And why not chase after that if you feel like it? There are probably some shavers out there who might need to quit that and just not quite work so hard at it. It might come more naturally that way. That's probably a very small amount though. Giving it another good rinse after that 3rd pass. The scent here is definitely all around me. Part of my space here. I'm enjoying it. I could pick this soap and use it for a long time, I think. It's got some interest with those spicy notes to keep that lime from being so one-dimensional. I believe that Sean Maher of Maher Olfactory and maker of many of the scents from Declaration Grooming and other makers, I think he might have done this scent, but it doesn't say it on the cover here. I think a lot of times it does say it on the cover. Did he say it on the side here? No, he didn't. This is the 20.1 soap base, by the way, if that's important. I was around for some of those soap bases, some of the 19 point somethings. Got to try a few of those, and he landed on one that he liked. The guy that does the Seaforth stuff now he's Ironbeard Sis on Reddit. He's been a very positive force in our community, the online community. I'm sure he's not only in that one, I'm sure he visits some of the other online shaving groups as well, and I'm sure he's just as kind and helpful as he is where we are on Reddit. I'm really glad that he brought back this old brand. There we go. It's not Baby Butt Smooth, but after 4 or 5 passes, it is presentable and reasonably comfortable. Now, because I don't shave against the grain, I really have thought for a long time that whenever this blade is going to quit on me, I have a feeling it's not going to be because it gets tuggy or extra tuggy. Because I've just had it be tuggy for so long now that I don't think it's going to get worse. Now, if I was going against the grain, that tugginess could turn into pulling hairs more uncomfortably in a bad light. And so I feel sure I wouldn't be going this far if I did shave against the grain. But to be honest, even if a blade is young, 3 uses on it, I don't shave against the grain either. So I think it's a fair comparison. A lot of us don't shave against the grain. For me, even with a young blade, it's almost like it lifts the hair up and bends it against the skin before it cuts it. And it's not enjoyable at all. I think the hair may even pull the skin up into the blade. Not fun with cuts happening because of that. I just decided to avoid that a long time ago, and I'm glad I did. All right, how much water did we use with this? Could be a perfect lather. Probably a little bit more water would make it a perfect lather, but as you saw when we got to the third pass, it was perfect at that point. About 20 milliliters of water added after the fact. While I do appreciate the softness greater with the B9A and the B5 and the B4, the B13 batches, I mean, this guy's no slouch. He was enjoyable. He was soft. Objectively speaking, and so he got the job done. If I had to use this brush forever, I would be fine with that. It does have that wall of badger feel because of the density here, but the tips are reasonably soft. The ones that haven't been treated as much actually have a good side benefit. Heavily treated tips are at risk of being damaged, and that's what happened with this batch 12. However, these guys and other, from other makers, if they didn't treat them as much with the bleaching type agents to soften the tips, then that will result in better tip health over the long run. And now it may not matter if you've got a decent sized brush collection. You may not have it in your rotation often enough to where you eventually see the brush kind of lose its tips. But if you're a one brush guy, then that could, and you shave every day, then that could happen to you with some of these heavily treated brushes. For most people, it's not going to be a concern. If you can afford to get a treated knot like this, then you probably have a few other brushes as well. And so yeah, I can feel the softness, but you do have a natural tip feel therein as well. Density, and you can see the height here. Let's look at that goodness. Some people shave with that, but I rarely do. But I extracted that out so that I could show you the loft here. It doesn't look excessive. However, one sign often that is a predictor for me with these kind of finest badger brushes, if there is a significant amount of this light color, this third band down here, that's visible above the handle, I'm often going to like that loft. It's often going to be enough to where it doesn't stay too firm. It doesn't have too much backbone. That extra loft gives it that ability to move and be a luxurious feeling brush for me instead of staying tight with a low loft. And so that's encouraging, and that is why I feel like I could use this brush comfortably and enjoyably for the long term. See, I can't wash this soap off my hands because of this soft water. I did end up with another pass or two. You know, you saw what I pulled out of the brush, and then we've also got what's in the bowl here. So I did end up making 6 or 7 passes of lather. So that 30 seconds turns out to be just the right amount, I think. Give me an extra cushion, a little bit extra margin there. And presto. So a wonderful scent. I can see why it was rated so highly. It's just kind of bright and fresh. I can see why so many people enjoy it. Why it has kind of a mass appeal, a broad appeal. It's nothing at all like Massacre of the Innocents or Valley of Ashes or Midnight Stag that can be very choosy, very divisive. This one is the opposite of that. And so it's no wonder it got some accolades. So that tugginess that I get on that first pass, it's gone during the rinse after that first pass. I use nice cool water. We're in the winter now. It's especially cold, and it's bracing, but also soothing. And then that irritation's gone. And the rest of the shave, terrific. No tugging or anything like that. So that is how today worked out as well. I could see, as I've been enjoying this scent cloud around me here, number one, I love the power of this scent in that it's present. There are a lot of them that are out there that are very light and you're having to look for them. You're having to lift the bowl up to your nose to smell them, but that hasn't been the case with this. I could see enjoying the balm or a splash available for this particular scent. Matter of fact, one of my online friends said that they love the sea spice lime, but unfortunately they made the evangelistic choice to gift some to a coworker who ended up liking it so much they wore it constantly, and that caused the person to then kind of lose the interest for it. And so now that what they enjoyed so much, they don't do anymore. And one thing I wanted to show you, and sometimes you can see this with these treated knots. Sometimes you'll have an area, if you can you see a difference in the color, in the tip color around the edge here than in the center? You can even see, comparing here obviously and up here, you can kind of see the difference, but even as it goes behind, you can see it's changed, right? I believe that is because this area around it's the whiter color. These are clumping more. These are softer. These are where the treatment, the bleaching agent, the gel or whatever they put on, it somehow stayed on the outside longer, a little bit longer. And so as I look, I can see a more fuzzy appearance to the tips here. I can see them hook more in the very tips. That's why these knots are sometimes called gel knots, or the finest badger, they'll call them a finest hook knot, a gel knot. They'll say that particular two-band is jelly. All those things can describe this situation. Whereas in the center, I'm seeing not very much hooking at all, and not nearly as much, but over here it's quite severe, and the jelly nature of the tips is more, and so they're clinging together in those clumps much more easily. In the center area, they're not clumping up in the same way, in the same jelly, spongy way. And so that looks like there was a slight treatment difference, the time spent with that agent on them. It looks like it was more around the edges. Is that a good or bad thing? I don't know. Just depends on what you like in your brush. And in a similar vein here, now that we talked about the damage, in a sense, that happens when the tips are treated, it's an acceptable damage for some because it damages the tips from being firm into being soft. But then if they'd overly damaged, like batch 12 was, then those little tips, instead of becoming soft, they go further and break off. They become brittle and break off. And so for that reason, because if you have a treated brush like this, don't work it too hard at the end of the shave on the towel. Don't work it as vigorously. I usually just kind of do painting motions, you know, that sort of thing, instead of just scrubbing at it. You can do that with a boar brush, right? Because you're trying to get those tips to split, but not quite so much with a treated badger. So we're going to let this guy sit. Really nice scent here. So let's just see what happens when the lime meets the orange. This is not an alcohol product. It's got aloe vera, calendula, chamomile, that sort of thing to help with skin issues. If alcohol causes you to maybe have skin that's too dry or something like that. Very good. I didn't need that much. With an alcohol splash, I kind of have to have that much, but since this is non-alcoholic, it doesn't evaporate, so I didn't quite need all that. I think I'll keep that guy on the counter. He's got a nice vintage vibe, and he is, with that orange scent, he matches so many scents, so many soap scents. All right, very nice. The Thayer's Witch Hazel is also a product that we associate the name witch hazel with it, but witch hazel is actually a small part of the solution. Now, Dickinson's is 100% witch hazel, I think, and you can call it witch hazel, but it also stinks because witch hazel stinks. That's the way it is. And so, to make the Thayer's makes a non-stinky version because it's such a small part. The rest is the aloe type of the solution. And so the witch hazel gives you benefits, the aloe gives you benefits, and you're all good. So that's the difference between the Dickinson's and the Thayer's. Told you about water we used. That's right, it was a 35-second load because I added that extra 5 seconds. I don't think maybe I needed to do that, but it was fine. Anything else on this shave? Now has the orange and those spicy notes. I think it has kind of overwhelmed and taken away the spiciness of the Sea Spice lime. Now it is a friendly takeover. It contributed. It wasn't clashing at all, but I don't think they're blending quite so much as the orange just kind of took over. Now it's not a heavy orange. It's still light, but I think it kind of erased the Sea Spice lime. So yeah, people were making a big deal about this, and now that I've tried it, I can see why, and I say it's justified. The hype is justified for sure. So there we go. Nothing else to talk about. 398 uses on this Nacet now. One more, and then we're almost to the big number. So there we go. Happy New Year to you guys as we look at a popular soap from 2022. And I'm glad I chose it today. You guys, take care now. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. All the best to you for a great new year.